welcome to Odisha, and I want to start from poetry. Why did you want to be a poet?
Why did I want to become a poet? I didn't choose to become a poet. I think, instinctively there was something in me that made me want to uh, uh, capture the world that I see around me, the emotions that it triggers in me, not in a form that is through fiction or through an essay, but somehow there was some, I think, what you call a cadence that I wanted to capture in poetry.
Now, what is your model for your style? Then?
I don't have a model for a style. I think I'm pretty much my own kind of a poet.
What is the usual process you adopt before writing a poem?
My usual process, there isn't a process. Actually, when something very, very strong, intense uh, happens in my life, it could be a good experience, it could be a bad experience, it could be a beautiful sight, it could be a horrible experience or something that I've seen that's very horrible, but something that is so intensely powerful that I need to express it. And that for me is how a poem happens.
That is what you have told somewhere also.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah, but it's a way, so I can never plan to write a poem.
Core.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you distinguish between poetry and a non-poetry one?
Yeah, very clear. With poetry, it's instantaneous. The moment I feel it, I have to write it. With fiction, I'm much more deliberate in that way. And that's in the sense that it stays in my mind for a very, very long time before I actually start capturing that story on paper. And there is a lot of thinking that goes into my fiction or my non-fiction. But when it comes to poetry, it's very much instinctive.
What is the fundamental misconception that irritates you, and how you would like to refute it?
Well, there are two fundamental misconceptions. One, of course, is that I am kind of untouched by various experiences in life. In terms of, people assume that given what I do in life and where I live and how I live and everything, they assume that I don't understand how a lot of marginalized or poor people and what goes into the life of a middle class person, etc., happens. All that is rubbish because I come from a very middle class background. And in fact, I was just thinking the other day when I was driving past my house, there was a ration shop with queues standing there and all that. And as a child, I remember, because sometimes there was nobody at home to go and stand in the ration shop, so I would means to be pushed and shoved and all those things. So basic experiences that probably a lot of writers don't have in their lives, I've had simply because of various reasons in my life. So that is one misconception, that I would only be able to write about a very elitist life, which is not the truth. The other misconception that has come through because of my writing is that people assume that I'm better when I write about women, which somehow irks me because I don't see myself
You do
as
not
a
want to be tagged as a
feminist or a woman writer or whatever. I'm a writer per se, and when you're a writer, it doesn't matter whether you're writing about men or women.
How does a poem come into being according to your experience?
Uh, when I write?
Yeah.
So, okay, for me, I've said, it is something that I have to write down. It doesn't matter what time of the day, night, where I am, I will write. If it's in a restaurant, I will write on a napkin. If it is in a plane or a train or wherever, I will, whatever piece of paper I have to write it down. So for me, there is no time lag between thought and writing. It has to happen immediately.
How does the timeless appeal come in your poetry? Or any poetry?
I think it is when you are able to kind of surmount all the physicalities of writing and of the world that you're trying to capture, that a timeless quality comes into it when you're talking about the human condition.
What is the fundamental nature of a poetry, and does it change over the period of time?
No, I think, see, poetry has to it, even the most flattest of blank verses, I think has a certain inbuilt rhythm and music to it. And I think that doesn't change no matter what.
Important in poetry and what make it genuinely great?
I think, see, if a poetry or a poem can appeal to not just a
Particular.
particular kind of reader, but if it can appeal to everyone from the most illiterate person who is told the poem rather than who reads it, to someone who this intellectual literary critic or whoever, if a poem can cut through all barriers of age, education, nationality, caste, creed, everything, sex, gender, all that, then it becomes a great poem.
What is the relation between the poetry and the truth of it?
Poetry is truth. Because, in fiction, especially from someone like me who plans my fiction, whereas with poetry it's unplanned. It is spontaneous, it's natural, so it is truth.
What is the relation between the tradition and the innovation in poetry?
Tradition and
Innovation.
I think we should just images and not be bogged down by traditional parameters of how poetry should be written. So innovation is the craftsmanship, and tradition is the content.
Can poetry counter the paralyzing effect of globalization?
Yes, because poetry, on the one hand, it can be very, it to capture specifics, which is what globalization does. It erodes and decimates specifics.